Hi everyone, welcome back to our statistics series. In the previous tutorials, we've learned a lot about data. And if you also remember the definition of statistics, where we said statistics is a science of collecting, organizing, analyzing, presenting, and interpreting data to make informed decisions. So when you look at the definition, you see collecting inside, right? So in this tutorial, data collection methods. Let's start first by looking at why data collection is important. Now listen attentively. It's important you know that data collection is the foundation of any statistical analysis. Okay. And if your data is not accurate or is not complete, your result will not be reliable. You cannot rely on your results since your data is not accurate or your data is not complete enough. So proper data collection will ensure that the information you've gathered is valid and is also useful. Okay, let's look at the sources of data that we have, where we get data from. Now data comes from two main sources. Okay, the first of the two is a primary source, that's primary data. Now when we talk about primary data are data that you collect yourself for a specific purpose. So you collected them yourself. That's primary. Okay, so primary data. You collected them yourself. Some examples are when you conduct a survey, when you go around on campus asking students about the food they often take at lunch. Okay, when you conduct interviews, it's also primary data source. Or when you conduct an experiment and you get the results yourself. So that's a primary data source. The second source is the secondary source of data. Secondary data is a data that has already been collected by someone else. Okay, it was collected by someone else or an organization. You only go for it from them. Okay, some examples include census record. Okay, the government have this, so others can go for it from the government. Then government report, others can also go for government report that was done by the government. You get it? And then published research. You can also see some on newspaper. Okay. So one advantage of this is that it's designed based on your research. So it's usually more reliable. Okay. But the second one is easier to access. And it's also less time consuming to collect. Okay. Now let's look at the methods and explain them. Okay. The first one is surveys. Now surveys involve asking questions to gather information from a group of people. Okay. When you are asking questions. So an example is a questionnaire about the food students of KNUST often take at lunch. You see that. Then another one is experiments. Something like when you conduct a control test to observe its outcome. Okay. An example is testing the effectiveness of a new medicine. So that's an experiment. Then another one is observation. Now observation is when you watch and you record events as they occur. Okay. One example is count of cars passing through an. Then we also have interviews. Interview is when you speak directly with an individual to gather detailed response from that individual. Okay, that's interview. An example is when you ask students about their study habits. You can get detailed responses about their study habits. Okay. And another one is existing data. This is when you use previously collected data such as census or company reports. Okay. One example is analyzing sales data from a business. So you can take the existing sales data of a business and use it for analysis. Okay. So you can see that each of these methods are used for different scenarios. And also, to select any of these methods to use, you have to consider the type of data you need, whether quantitative or qualitative. You have to consider this factor to know the method of data collection you will be choosing. Okay. You also have to consider your resources, such as time and your budget. Interview might take you more time and money than surveys. Okay. Then you should also consider the level of detail required. That is, if you don't want detailed responses, you can just go for surveys. But if you want detailed responses, then you have to conduct interview. You see. So to choose a method of data collection, you need to consider these factors. In the next tutorial, we'll look at sampling techniques. So it's important you like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials. Thank you and see you in the next tutorial.